G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the YouTube channel. How we all doing this lovely evening, man? Oh, we're heading out in peak hour traffic, my favourite. Woohoo! But ladies and gents, welcome back to the channel. How are we all doing? I do have an interesting topic that's going to ruffle the feathers of some people, because it's a very divisive topic again, but not in a bad way, if that makes sense. You'll understand more so as we start talking about it. The title of the video is going to bloody give it away anyway. I don't know why I do these things, but before we get into the video, ladies and gents, how are we all doing? My name is Nathan, aka Sergeant Wombat. I make videos on motorcycle related content. If you guys like my content, leave a like, comment and subscribe. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers right now, and so far it's looking like we're going to hit it. I don't need to be 60 for this, come on now. We're going to hit it by the end of the year, so I'm kind of excited in that regard. But without further ado, let's get into it. And the topic for the day, ladies and gents, is it worth spending the big bucks on your first motorcycle? Alright, you're out there on bike sales or whatever, Gumtree or whatever your website is in your local area. Man, I'm having a bloody aneurysm at the moment. I can't speak for some reason. And you're seeing, now you might look at this brand new RS660 and you go, that's a nice bike as my first bike. It's 20 grand. Ooh, that's a bit expensive. And then you look at some of the other older CBR 650s, $10,000 second hand, maybe even other bikes that are even cheaper. Should you go for, ooh, hello Focus RS, my favorite hatchback. Should you go for the expensive one, should you not? Now, look, there's a few factors besides money that come into this. Obviously, if you can't afford the bike, don't go out and get a loan to get a bike, okay? The way I always look at getting the vehicle is, if you can't afford the vehicle, don't buy the vehicle, all right? Don't get a loan to get a motorbike of all things. Cars, it's a little different, because cars, your likelihood of having a drop-in or an accident isn't as high, but when it comes to motorbikes, save up and buy it when you can afford it. So if it's way out of your price range, don't get one, okay? Now, for your second bike, it's a bit different. With your first one, go with what you can afford. If you only have a budget of $5,000, $6,000, stick to that. Don't try and stretch it to something else outside that budget, because when it comes to bikes, things can go wrong that aren't your fault. And if you're paying off a bike, say you've just taken a $20,000 loan and you drop the bike on the way home, one, that's damaged now, but if you get the bike written off as well, now you're stuck paying this bloody loan if you don't have it insured properly, and now you just have all this debt and no bike to show for it. So first line of defense, if you can't afford the bike, maybe don't get the bike, okay? There's nothing wrong with getting an expensive bike for your first one. Obviously there's a few factors that come into it. So if you did your bike test and you found yourself very nervous and very uncomfortable on bikes, don't go for something expensive, because you're probably going to drop it, you're probably going to damage it, and at the end of the day, you're just wasting money on damaging an item that you're probably not going to want to keep anyway. Okay, now I know in America you don't have to always have these first bikes, second bikes. You can always just go that you can buy your dream bike straight out the gate if you can afford it. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. So look, when your skills aren't very good, it's actually better to buy yourself. Is that another Focus RS? Oh my lord, it's a Focus RS bargain sale today. I want one. Get yourself something that is more comfortable and you can learn on, that you won't feel so guilty if you're damaged. So the way I look at it, now I paid $10,000 for my first bike, and even that is on the upper echelon of what you should be spending for a first bike anyway, because I've dropped my bike, but I didn't really care. So I bought my Honda Rebel with the intention that I know I'm going to sell it one day, okay? The difference is, when you're buying these beginner bikes, they hold their value a little bit more than, say, some of the bigger bikes. They're beginner bikes. Everyone wants a nice, comfortable beginner bike. Now, in Australia, more so, I'd say, than other places, because we have the learner bike. And if you have A2 licenses and A1 license, those smaller bikes hold their value because people can't get anything else as their first bikes. And you'll notice a lot of people stay on these bikes for a long time. I've had this bike for over 4 years now, all right? But it still holds its value really well. So for one, get yourself a nice bike you find yourself comfortable on, that you feel comfortable learning on. It's not going to be too difficult when it comes to acceleration, power bands and all that. And also, you want to make sure you're actually comfortable riding the damn thing around. So if you buy yourself like a leader bike as your first bike, you might find that you're like, ooh, I feel uncomfortable, it scares me to ride, it's too fast, the gears are a bit wrong. And you don't want to be in that situation where the bike scares you, because then you're going to be more scared of dropping it. Look at that bloody thing. Oh god, I love those cars so much. Oh, Nathan, pay attention to the road in front of you. Woohoo! Oh man. So look, you don't want a bike that scares you, and you don't want to spend too much money that you're scared of riding it or damaging it, okay? It's like buying a Lamborghini as your first car. Not a good idea. Not that I'd buy one even though I had money anyway, but still. What you should be aiming to do when it comes to your first bike is find what kind of bike riding you want to do and get yourself something to practice that style of riding. So when it comes to your first motorbike, you could even buy yourself a cheap metric cruiser, being like a Japanese cruiser or something, because look, they're not going to cost you anywhere near as much money as like a Harley would or an Indian. So you're going to be spending 1/10 of the money you would on one of those bigger brands, okay? You don't need to get the most powerful bike out there because you're learning, okay? Don't be scared to start on a small bike because they are more fun to ride, believe it or not, than the fast bikes. Fast bikes are great if you're going in a straight line, but smaller bikes, they're more fun to ride in general because you actually get to use the whole bike as opposed to, I pinned it and I've hit first gears red line and I've already broken every speed limit in the country. You know what I mean? So don't get sucked in with all the big numbers and flashy bike models. You could have a really crappy first bike and still have just as much fun, all right? Don't be scared to start on an R3 instead of an R7 even, okay? You don't need the more powerful bike. Focus on building your fundamentals, because if you crash an R3, even over an R7, believe it or not, I know a lot of people have a lot of shit to say about the R7, but you buy an R6, you're paying way too much money for an R6. They're so overpriced because people just think they're worth way more than they are. I am blinded by this sunshine right now. But if you drop an R3 over an R6 or an R1 or an R7 or even an R9, if you're lucky enough to see those around, financially, it's not going to make you cry, okay? An R3 you can pick up for like $4,000 in some places. An MT-03, same deal. Get yourself something small that you can afford that you won't feel guilty damaging. That's the general rule of thumb I say for your first bike. Now, like I said, $10,000 is a lot of money for my first bike. I wouldn't recommend even spending $10,000 on your first bike. This is Australian money, of course, because like I said, I've damaged it and my bike has a dent. To fix the tank on this Honda Rebel, it's $700 Australian, and that's just not going to happen. I ain't going to spend $700 to fix a tank, okay? I don't care that much. I used to. And when I low-sided the bike and got the tank fixed the first time, I was really happy because I had a big scratch on it. But now that the bike's in the same scenario again where it's damaged again, I'm not going out of my way to repair the bloody thing because it's just, I don't care enough, man. It's a bike. The bike is bike, you know what I mean? Oh, will I be able to sneak through here in time? I can, and the shadow is blocked. Oh, I can see. It's beautiful. Will I be able to get out of here, though, soon? Who was that lane turning? I don't know this intersection well enough. Oh, you bastard, you've come in there too. So, there's a lot of options when it comes to your first bike. It doesn't need to be an R3 and MT-03. You can get a CBR 500. I know a lot of people don't like them, but they're great bikes. They're bulletproof bikes. Street triples are on the upper echelon because they're expensive as well. Street triples are like 20,000 Australian dollars as well. RS660s and Tuonos, same price range. They're expensive bikes. If you're a little bit more experienced with motorbikes, you've been riding dirt bikes your whole life. Now, look, I know that people say that. I've been riding dirt bikes my whole life. They are fundamentally different things, okay? They don't ride the same on the road that they do on the dirt. But if you've been riding dirt bikes your whole life, you're not going to just hop on a bike and drop it because you got the general idea of how to ride a bloody thing, okay? Sure, the terrain's different, but you're not just going to be hopping on like, the power's all weird. Okay, if you've been riding bikes your whole life, you can sort of justify buying something a little bit more expensive, okay? And the reason I say that is you have the basic fundamentals of riding down. You understand how bikes work. You understand how the weights feel on them. And in fact, you're probably better at staying upright on a bike if you've been riding dirt bikes, okay? Because they're a little bit more awkward to keep up, down, left and right, you know what I mean? So don't be scared if you've been practicing your whole life. But as a very beginner bike rider, don't fork out shitloads of money because you want the fancy bike. Buy yourself something cheaper. Second hand is better. Obviously, try and get yourself something that's not busted. And if you get to a dealership, you can take it back if there's faults with one of those. A second-hand dealership bike is okay. They might be a bit dodgy. Like, we know how dealerships work, but at least if there's a fundamental flaw with the bike, you can take it back to them and be like, look, you've sold me a lemon. What the hell's going on here? Get it sorted, and then they usually do. Okay, that's sort of the joys of dealership bikes. But don't be worried about needing to buy the best thing since sliced bread. Like an old ER6N or an XJ6 even, or the FJ6 or XJ6R. I forget what the sports bike version is. That's a detuned R6 engine. They're great little things, all right? I'd recommend them in a heartbeat. And then if you get a little bit more comfortable on the bike, you can de-restrict the bloody thing. And guess what? You'll have a phenomenal time riding that around. One of my favorite bikes of all time, like I said, is the CBR 250R, all right? You can find them for $2,000 to $5,000, okay? And then they're in varying conditions because the bikes are bloody, nearly 30 years old now. But guess what? Oh, wait, no, they would be 30 years old now. Oh, boy, that makes me feel even older, even though I'm only 26. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, dude, grab yourself an old bike if you need to. They're fun. You don't need to get the best thing on the market. You don't need to buy yourself a Ducati Monster because it's got a Ducati brand. Don't get sucked into buying yourself the flashiest looking thing you can afford, or in some cases not afford just because of the way that loans work. And I'm telling you, you won't be upset buying yourself something a little less flashy, because when it comes to bikes, the only people who are going to give you shit are other riders or your friends. But do you live for them or do you live for yourself, man? Your life is not meant to be spent wasted money to prove things to other people. In fact, that's why a lot of people who win the lottery end up losing it all, because they try and spend so much money being flashy for other people that they end up losing sight of what matters to them, and then bam, you've wasted all this money. And now, like I said, if you buy yourself a $20,000 bike as your first motorcycle, right, and you get a loan, get approved and all that good stuff, and then you ride it for a month, it's the greatest thing ever, then someone cuts you off and you ride off the bike. If your bike isn't fully covered in insurance, because I know a lot of people don't cover the full price, now you're left with this extra bit of money, and now you have a loan that you still have to pay off, but you've got nothing to show for it. It's just going to be sad and annoying, and you're not going to be happy about it, and it's just not worth it, dude, in most cases. So when it comes to your first bike, don't feel bad. Go out and look on your bike market. Spend yourself anywhere from $4,000 to $7,000, and you know what? You could even spend less, and there'll be plenty of people. If you have people who ride, get them to come along with you so they can test out these bikes with you, because I can assure you, you're not going to be upset getting yourself something slower or smaller, because riding those small engine bikes is just as fun as the big engine bikes. It just depends on the amount of torque they have. Don't get yourself something tiny if you're trying to do a lot of cross-country stuff. Like an R15M is my favorite little sports bike that comes out of the modern era, okay? But I can assure you, if you're trying to do a lot of touring sort of stuff, or big like long distance commutes to work on freeways, that's not your move. Get yourself something with enough pep, like a Rebel 500. You can get them secondhand for 6,000 Australian dollars. I would recommend this bike to anybody in a heartbeat as their first motorcycle. You don't need to get yourself a Rebel 1100. Now, I know in Australia we're limited. This is the biggest Rebel you can buy as your first bike, okay? You can't get yourself a Rebel 1100 as your first bike, even if you wanted to, unless you just didn't want to follow the law. Which, you know what? If you do that, I'm not going to stop you or complain about you. Good on you. You can do whatever you feel like. But there's no shame in buying yourself something a little bit on the slower scale of the spectrum, or just worse quality. Like if you buy yourself, let's go back to the R3 just because it's so easy. An R3, right? You can buy yourself a second-hand one that's got a bit of scratches on it already. Now, if you've already got a bike that's damaged, you're not going to feel as sad when you drop it for the first time, which in 90% of cases, it's going to happen. It's sort of like the bike drop is almost inevitable, okay? Don't be like a sad guy when you have that happen to you, because the way I call it is the rite of passage when you drop a bike. It's not a bad thing. It's not a sad thing. It just happens. But like, you don't want something that's so bad that you have to ring out the fifth gear to hit like the speed limit. You know what I mean? So do your research. Get on YouTube. Look at the bikes and how they perform. See what's sort of going to give you what you need. And if you like cruisers, man, just get yourself a little V-Star 650 or like a Vulcan 650, or if you want to spend a little bit less, an old Honda Shadow 400. And if you can get a bigger bike, the Honda Shadow 800, they're okay bikes. You can even get a Virago 250, dude. They're not bad. Don't get sucked into what people are telling you and what you need, and the internet says, oh, the bigger bike better. Bigger bikes aren't always better. They drink more petrol. Yes, they have more acceleration and more ability to get out of some scenarios, but I can assure you, like a Rebel 500 has never had an issue in terms of getting out of a place or a dangerous ride. So, all I'm saying is, man, don't get sucked into the numbers and the flashy bikes and the flashy figures. You don't need to spend a lot of money. You don't need to get yourself the best, brandest, newest thing you can. I don't think it's necessary. This is, like I said, I've done the expensive bike. Now, $10,000 is a bit of the mid-range for the beginner bikes, but the point being is there are people that spend twice as much on their first bike or more. You just don't need it. Like even 10 grand is what I say is the upper echelon. You need to just focus on getting the damn thing, starting to ride, and being happy that you are riding. You know what I mean? Just be happy you have two wheels and you are riding in the streets, man. And that's pretty much the point I'm trying to nail in there. Just get a bike. Don't need the bike. The bike comes later. Get a bike, get riding, get started, and practice your skills, and then save up for the bike. You know what I mean? Otherwise, ladies and gents, that's pretty much my point there. If you have any other comments or anything, leave it down below. Let me know. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel. Let us keep growing. Hopefully next time my brain works a little bit better. I'm not trying to struggle to get words out of my mouth, but you know how it be. Otherwise, take it easy. Keep it cheesy. You know I love you, but it is time to leave you. Unfortunately, I know, it's terrible, but ladies and gents, have a good one. Peace. Bye!